Rather recently, in a New York Times article, the Department of Defense revealed that back in 2007, $22 million out of their $600 billion budget was spent on the Advanced Aerospace Threat Identification Program, initially funded at the request of U.S. Senator Harry Reid. It was hidden within the Pentagon's bureaucracy, and that's how they wanted it. According to the DoD, they have been investigating reports of unidentified objects for years, deep within the Pentagon's maze. The funding for this program ended in 2012. Recently, they have disclosed a few military pilot sightings, such as this object caught on camera by an F-18 Super Hornet.
There's a whole fleet of them. Look on the ASA. My gosh. They're all going against the wind. The wind's 120 knots from the west. Oh, I'll take, dude.
According to a December 16th article in the New York Times, there was an incident that took place back in November of 2004. The incident involved two Navy pilots in a pair of FA-18 Super Hornets from the USS Nimitz on a routine training mission 100 miles out in the Pacific. They were contacted by the operations officer of a Navy cruiser, the USS Princeton. They asked the flight if they were carrying weapons. One of the pilots replied that they were carrying dummy missiles. They were on a training mission off the coast of San Diego that afternoon and weren't expecting any hostile actions. The incident which occurred that day was supposedly made public by a Pentagon group that investigated UFOs. The Princeton had been tracking the object for 2 weeks. The object appeared suddenly at 80,000 feet and then hurtled toward the sea, eventually stopping at 20,000 feet and hovering. Then they either dropped out of radar range or shot straight back up. The operator of the Princeton instructed the pilots, and the two fighters headed straight towards the object. But then they arrived at a merge plot, a naval term for being so close that all the craft seemed to merge together on the radar. The pilots could not see anything visually at first. There was nothing on radar either. Suddenly, one of the pilots looked down at the sea and noticed the waves churning. Something was just below the surface, and whatever it was causing the sea to churn. Hovering 50 feet above the churn was a craft of some kind, whitish. It was around 40 feet long and oval in shape. The object jumped around erratically, staying over the wave disturbance, but not moving in any direction. He said it looked as if that portion of the water was boiling. The pilot began a circular descent to get a closer look, but seemingly as he got closer, the object began to ascend toward him, almost as if it were coming to meet him halfway. He abandoned his slow ascent and headed straight for the object. The object zoomed away at high speed. The two fighter jets conferred with the operations officer on the Princeton and were told to head to a rendezvous point 60 miles away, which is called a cap point in aviation terms. They were en route and closing when the Princeton radioed again. Radar had again picked up the strange object, and it was at the cap point. The fighters were at least 40 miles away, and in less than a minute, the object was already at their cap point. By the time the two fighters arrived at the rendezvous point, the object had disappeared. The fighter jets returned to the Nimitz. The pilot said in the interview that he had no idea what he saw that day. But whatever it was, it had no plumes, no wings or rotors, and it outran two F-18s.